Boris Johnson is a baby. He's a baby among adults in the populist political field. But really and truly, is he a baby? Well, that's what I'm going to discover right here. I'm going to discover not only is Boris a baby, or Boris the baby, a baby, but what is the connection between Boris and babies as such? And that's what I'm going to find out a little bit later, so make sure you watch until the end. But let's look at Boris Johnson and who he is. Many see him as a really popular figure insofar as he was voted by the majority of the Tory membership to get into government, to go for government in the big role that he is, the Prime Minister of Britain. And that was a good thing. Why? Because they wanted a leader, somebody who could bring them to where they wanted to be. And this guy was the choice. 66% of people chose him to be the number one. They liked him. They had that feeling that Boris could be the, well, not the baby, but the leader. So with that in mind, things are good. But then you had the Brexit thing coming along. And look, this video is not going to be all about politics. It's not going to be all about Brexit or the things that make up the nitty-gritty of politics. It's more about the personality. But having a knowing personality of Boris is one thing, and knowing what came along with Brexit is another thing. He, after a lot of research, according to himself, a lot of different ways of looking at things, looked at Brexit and decided, yes, we have to leave. I have to support the leaving of Britain from Europe. So with that, he went gung-ho, he went full on with it. And he supported Britain leaving Europe. With that, he used what he had. And what has he got? Well, Boris has good looks. Yes, he has. He has good looks. He is popular among the ladies. According to, well, what many commentators say he has, and that is good teddy bear looks. And having that good teddy bear look, well, I suppose that's to be lauded, to be looked at, and just, well, if we all had it, it would be great. Having the teddy bear looks means that he has that ability to connect, and maybe that's the connection that he really has and truly has with babies, this teddy bear of himself. But maybe not, maybe it's just his hair. Maybe it's just his hair that's that way. And then people say, experts say, that he does and makes a lot of gaffes, a lot of silly things, does and says a lot of silly things. And maybe that's not the best for leadership. But then he came into a political sphere that was dominated by this authoritarian or old age authoritarian of European leaders that was not seen as being attractive by the British electorate. This is mainly why they looked at Boris. He's an alternative. He's a different type of guy. Some have shown in their research of Boris that he's like a bad personal development coach or such. That he comes across in a way that is said is full of gas and is full of funny things coming across and coming out of Boris's mouth, that it's just laughable. But still, he is the leader. He is the guy that leads Britain out of Europe. And what of Boris's popularity in comparison to other leaders? Well, the reality is that he's less likeable than even the British Prime Minister before him, that is Theresa May. 3 out of 10 or 31% of people have voted that they like Boris at the start of his reign, whereas 58% of people preferred to like Theresa May. So that's almost twice the amount that actually preferred Theresa May than preferred Boris Johnson at the beginning of his tenure as leader of Britain. And we all know what happened to Theresa May. Things got on top of her and she ended up welcoming Boris into the fold. When this question was first asked, the favourability of Theresa May in comparison to Boris, it was that 48% of people felt that she was, well, a positive influence, a favourability towards her. That's almost half. Whereas 36% saw her as a negative influence and it not being favourable to have her in the lead. Now, this is pretty harsh against Boris because he's also known to have a playful persona. And this is a thing that is really good. Surely, if we're talking about babies at least, he's one that can be positive, and surely that's a good thing in a leader, to be able to be positive, to project yourself in a positive light, to be able to give people hope. After all, they also say he has kind of a cuddly toy atmosphere about him. Prior to Johnson taking over as Prime Minister, he was doing a big job. Well, actually two big jobs. One was that he was the London Mayor, which is a big job in itself, and of course then he was a Foreign Secretary. As Foreign Secretary, just over a quarter, 26% of people thought that Johnson did a good job, whereas 48%, a larger degree of people, almost half in fact, felt that he didn't do a good job as even Foreign Secretary. So how then did he get the big job as Prime Minister? This is the question. As London Mayor, he, got closer up the ranks. He did a better job according to lots of people. In fact, almost half, 47% of people felt he did a good job as London Mayor. What about this brand shiny newness that can be attributed to, toys, such as teddy bears, but also can be towards these transitional objects, which I'll speak about in a minute. This type of brand shiny newness of Boris being the leader, half of Britons felt that he could be a good leader simply because he was new. Whereas just under a quarter, 24% felt that no, him being there in the role, it's not going to change things. But remember, in defense of Boris, this is not necessarily because of his persona, even though it's playful and positive, which is a good thing, I would have thought. But it's more because of the politics that have governed over Europe in the past, where people felt there was this authoritarian kind of old style regime and they wanted something new. So this is where Boris came along, and surely that newness, that shininess of Boris brought people to bear in a good way, that they felt positive, as said. But that is not, or has not been the case. In fact, they found that he has struggled, but we know he struggled. He struggled on the hospital bed when the coronavirus came along. And in fairness to Boris, this was certainly not planned. This is something that he had to just battle against himself. One thing to battle for a seat, another thing to battle for the presidency or to be the Prime Minister. But to battle for your life is tough. It's very, very difficult. This is what he had to do when he went to the hospital in Britain during the coronavirus. It was good that he overcame things, because if he was that baby that I mentioned earlier on, he would have that transitional effect. That transitional effect of essentially being in his mother's arms. And his mother's arms is exactly how this transitional effect works. Because with regard to the transitional effect, it is essentially about being in your mother's arms, firstly, and having that caring bosom of your mother to a child, to an infant, which I'm sure Boris loved having, as we all did. It's natural, it's comforting. But if you take that away, you take that mother away, you still need that nurturing, you need that love, you need that surrounding and caring. And with that, you need a transitionary piece. And this is where essentially a cuddly toy can fit in, or something like a cloth, or something that people, or infants more so, like to put in their mouth as they're very, very young. This is the transitionary piece that substitutes essentially the mother's physical love, the bosom of the mother. This is the theory that was put out there. And this is what has essentially been compared to Boris Johnson and his leadership. That he's just there to facilitate the substitution, not just of the mother, but of something more powerful, of something that has a better guidance to it. So with all that's going on in this old style political regime, that Europe is being dictatorial as such, or authoritarian towards the Britons, then Boris steps in and he's the substitute. He is the cuddly toy. He is the man that not just looks like the teddy bear, but actually he is the teddy bear. Well, at least in theory. This is how Britain has been chosen to be led, by Boris, the teddy bear. Well, at least the substitute of a teddy bear in some sort of theoretical way. But then again, the actual research doesn't necessarily agree with this all of the time, but some research does. They think that it's a wonderful way of putting a theory out there, and yes, it could work, but there are critics of this theory saying it's not necessarily as simple as that. So that's why I decided to look into a little bit deeper research with this. So I started looking at the study. I started looking at a study of this transitional effect on adolescents, on teenagers. After all, Boris is not a teenager, and looked at 992 adolescents, young people. 992, now that's quite a study, almost 1,000 of course. Now the average age of these young people was 14.5 years of age. That's 14 and a half in Boris' language, or in anybody else's language. So at 14 and a half years of age, 992, they had 433 boys and the rest were girls. So with that in mind, what was the outcome? Essentially, the outcome was that the transitional effect, the transitional theory works. It works for those that have kind of mental health issues, that they need support, that they need something to, well, give them greater resilience. And resilience is, of course, what Boris gives us. Well, not me because I'm Irish, but it gives the Britons, the people in Great Britain. That is a good thing, surely, because he is their leader. If it's not a good thing, well, it doesn't matter because he is the leader. People have voted him in and he is going to lead in the best way possible that he can. Brexit has led itself away from Europe, and who knows the future. For sure, we'll know after this video. But before you end this video, make sure you subscribe if you liked it. Hopefully you have, because there's more coming along the way, as there is with Paris and Britain and Europe and politics and leadership. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you have, thank you very much. Until next time, have a wonderful day.